my troopers hopping in this bitch, popping in this bitch. Me and my troopers hopping in this bitch, popping in this bitch. Me and my troopers.
101 episodes. 101 episodes. See, I started this humble YouTube channel in the year of our Lord, 2020. Since then, I've talked about a lot of things, but today is the day where I finally talk about the big one. Today is the day where I talk about my favorite anime of all time. Today, I talk about this guy. Today, I talk about this guy. Today, I talk about this guy. Today is the day that I have been waiting for a long time. See, I don't know why it took me this long to talk about this anime, but we're here. My name is Mr. J3T, and today we're going to be talking about My Hero Academia. Or if you're that guy, Boku no Hero Academia. So, if you're new to the anime scene and you don't know what My Hero Academia is, or if you are a fan and you never watched My Hero Academia, let me give you the rundown. So My Hero Academia is a world where 80% of the population has a superpower which they call quirks. And we follow this young boy named Mizuku Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya. Or Deku. I'm gonna call him Deku or Izuku. I'm gonna fluctuate between Deku, Izuku, or Midoriya. I'm probably gonna call him Deku throughout this whole video. But Deku wants to be a hero. He wanted to be a hero ever since he was a wee little boy. And he has always said, once I get my power, once I get my quirk, I'm going to be a hero. But unfortunately for young Midoriya, he doesn't have a quirk. He's a part of the 20% of humanity that doesn't have a quirk. But did that stop Deku? No, it didn't. So we follow him. We cut a few years later. He meets the #1 hero in Japan, All Might. And throughout a series of events, All Might deems Deku worthy to be a hero and gives him his quirk, All Might. His being All Might. All Might gives Deku his quirk. Now Deku has this incredible, powerful quirk of breaking his limbs. And he'll use this ability to become the #1 hero in the world. Now, that's just the cliff notes of the story, but that's basically the gist. Young boy wants to be a hero, doesn't have a quirk, meets his idol. His idol gives him his quirk. Now he is a hero. We follow his journey of being a hero. Now, back when I first watched this anime, I heard about it. I didn't give it a watch until like all of season 1 was already out. And when I binge watched season 1, I thought to myself, wow, how the hell did I not, why the hell did I not watch this sooner? Because this show is two of my favorite things rolled into one. It's anime and superheroes. Anime and superheroes. They go hand in hand. Two of my favorite things just mashed into one. It's Anime Sky High. For those of you that remember Sky High, it's Anime Sky High. So, I gotta say this. First of all, let's talk about the animation. The animation, for the most part, is really good. I like the animation. I like the fights. There is a fight between Deku and his best frenemy, Bakugo. I believe that fight took place in they had two fights. One in the first fight was in season 1, and I believe they fought. Their round 2 was in season 2. It's either season 2 or 3 where they had a second round fight. Or maybe it was season 4. But they had a second fight, and that fight was pretty cool. Currently in season 6, the top 5 hero, Mirako, I believe I said that right, Mirako. She is the number 5 hero, and her quirk, she has this bunny quirk. The narrator said, and I quote, she can do bunny things better than a bunny. Or bunny-like things better than a bunny. So, she's basically has bunny abilities, but they're superhuman, because this is a superhero show. And she fought all of these creatures called Nomus, and the animation was really smooth. I like that. The animation when the animation in this show is great, it's great. But there are moments where, for example, in season 5, there's a character named Lemillion. This guy, Lemillion. He fights a villain named Overhaul. And it's basically just a slideshow. Basically, there's some parts where it's animated great, but in other parts, it's basically a slideshow. But the animation can, there are times where, instead of, action and all that, it's basically just big old images of what's happening. Just a moving, they basically took panels from the manga and just colored it and put it on screen and just called it a day. There are points where the show can be like that too, but those moments, I feel like they make up for those moments with big old beautiful animation scenes, when Deku first fought a character named Muscular. Deku, in the last moments, Deku powers up, right? And he punches, clocks Muscular and just sends him flying, and that scene was animated beautifully. But yeah, there are points where the animation can be good to great, and it could be it could be better. But for the most part, it's great. Don't get me wrong. That's just something I noticed throughout the whole anime, is that scenes can be great, but they can also just not animate the stuff at all and just show a bunch of pictures. But hey, besides that, it is genuinely really good. And the story is something that I'm invested in a lot. I like how Deku is. I like how Deku has to like train his body in order to control One for All, because we find out that All Might, the number one hero, he wasn't born with One for All, but he was given One for All by his mentor, his teacher. And so we see Deku throughout the show trying to control One for All and to harness the full powers of One for All. And it was cool to see his journey. I like how he, even when he does have his quirk, this amazing quirk, he still has to work to control it better. I like that a lot. He's better at controlling it now than he was back in season 1, because like I alluded to in the opening, like when he first got One for All and he used it, his arms would just be torn all to hell, just broken all to hell. His arms, his legs, killing himself basically using his quirk. But that moment where he finally learns how to control it, that's a hype moment, because we've seen this kid break his limbs constantly trying to control this quirk, and now to see him finally get some control over it, that was a hype moment. In fact, all the characters are like pretty memorable. We got Bakugo, like I said, is he's Deku's frenemy. Emphasis on the enemy part of frenemy. Bakugo started off as a bully towards Deku. In fact, Bakugo is the one that gave him his nickname Deku. It was supposed to... Bakugo called him Deku as a way to like demean him, make fun of him. But when Deku got his powers, and Deku basically took that nickname Deku and turned it into... He said he was going to turn it into something great. So, Bakugo... He goes through an interesting arc throughout the show. At first he starts off as an arrogant asshole, right? He thinks he's better than everybody else. But when he gets to UA High, which is basically, like I said, UA is basically like Sky High, like anime Sky High, basically. It's where all these young kids go to learn how to be superheroes. So when he gets enrolled into UA and he sees everybody else is just as good, if not better than him, he gets a bit of a reality check. And when he finds out that Deku has powers, and like in their first fight, he realizes that like, oh god, Deku could have beat me just then. He then goes through a little bit of an arc, and he's actively training now to still be better than everybody else. So he's not an arrogant asshole anymore. He's just a regular asshole now. And yeah. So his arc was cool to see. I like the whole mentorship between All Might and Deku. I like how we see All Might sort of trying to, while Deku is trying to learn how to control not All for One, that later, One for All. All Might is learning how to be a mentor, because he said it himself, when he first got One for All, he can just control it immediately. He didn't need to be taught, but Deku does. So we see All Might learn how to be this mentor figure to not only Deku, but to the rest of the students of Class 1A. Now, I will say this about the characters, though. There's a lot of characters in this show. Like, a lot. Not including all the students in Class 1A, but also there's the students in Class 1B, all the pro heroes, the villains. I haven't even talked about the villains yet. Hell, I haven't even talked about the character, all of the students yet. I've only talked about a few. there are a lot of characters in this show, and it can sometimes be hard to. It can sometimes lead to most characters not getting enough screen time. Now, there are moments where particular characters get their time to shine. There's a Kirishima. There's this guy that I showed you in the opening, Kirishima. He gets his time to shine in season 5. In fact, season 5 is why I bought a pop of him, because he really became one of my favorites after season 5. He really gets to show what he can do. Currently in season 6, there's another character called Charge Bolt. His quirk is electricity. He got his little moment to shine in season 6, episode 2. He got his little moment to shine. So the show does try and give each character their moment, but like I said, there's a lot of characters to keep up with, and like some characters don't get enough screen time, which is why I call most characters by their hero name and not their actual name, because like some of their names slip my mind a little bit. That's because there are other characters that get the more of the spotlight than others. So that's one critique that I have. Not all the characters get enough screen time, but when they do, they make the most of it. Speaking of characters, Todoroki. A lot of people seem to like him because of his story. He also has a story involving his family. His dad is the number 2 hero, right under All Might, who is Endeavor. His name's Endeavor, or at least that's his hero name. His hero name is Endeavor. And another arc in the show with Endeavor is that Endeavor, when you first see him, he's like just this awful dad, right? He's just an awful dad. Endeavor is the reason why Todoroki has his little burn on the side of his face. Endeavor wasn't directly responsible for the burn. That's like a whole point. I'm not going to get into that because I want y'all to see that for yourselves. I want y'all to experience that for yourselves. But he's not directly responsible, but he had a hand in this burn that Todoroki has. So Endeavor is just this awful dad, right? Just so awful. He praises Todoroki, but he distanced Todoroki from the rest of his siblings. The reason why they were born in the first place is because Endeavor wanted to make a child of a perfect child, a perfectly balanced child. He married a woman with an ice quirk, and Endeavor himself has a fire quirk, so he wanted to make a child that with the best of both worlds. That has the best of both worlds, fire and ice, or as Bakugo lovingly calls Todoroki, icy hot. And so icy hot is that perfect child. He has the best of both worlds, ice and fire, and he gave a lot of favoritism. He showed a lot of favoritism towards Todoroki and pretty much ignored the rest of his other 2 children. Yeah, 2, I'm not going to spoil that. But he ignored the rest of his 2 children. So we see an arc of him slowly becoming a slightly more decent person. He still has his moments, but overall he's better now, currently in season 6, than he was in season 1 to when we first see him. it was cool to see his progression of becoming a more decent human being and trying to become a better father to not only Todoroki but his children. And Todoroki himself, he had a whole arc where he refused to use his fire quirk because he didn't want to use something that's associated with his dad. So that was also a storyline too. That arc of him accepting his fire and that his quirk is his own quirk, not his dad's. That was a cool story arc too. Just the arcs. The arcs in this show are just really good. They really suck you in and make you care about all of these people and care about their arcs and their growths and their journeys, and that's cool. That only doesn't apply to the heroes, but that also applies to the villains too, because the villains also grow not only as a character, not only do the characters grow, but their quirks grow too. There's one character, one of the villains in this show. Tomura Shigaraki. We first see Tomura Shigaraki in season 1, right? And he has the quirk to basically, like, whatever he can decay everything he touches. Like, people, objects, buildings. He can, as soon as he touches, he puts all 5 fingers on that thing decays. So, when we first see Shigaraki in season 1, he's this very immature, right? He plans this raid on the UA students. The UA students are going to, like, basically this practice hero session, you know, because they're practicing, they're training to become superheroes, and he plans a raid on them. And when All Might shows up and starts beating one of the Nomu creatures, Shigaraki has a full-on temper tantrum like a child. He's basically a man-child, basically. When we first introduced to him, he's just a big old man-child. But as the show goes on, we see him mature a little bit. We see him act out less of emotion, and we see him think more calculatingly, to where season 6 currently, this dude is a menace, like a real menace. In season 5, there was a whole arc called My Villain Academia, where we basically see the culmination of Shigaraki's arc. Now he's this big bad, and he feels that way because we saw his arc from being this man-child to now being like this having this threatening presence to him, to where, like, you kind of feel a sense of dread whenever, like, you see him interacting with, like, the heroes. You feel scared for them, and I like that. I don't like it, but I like it at the same time. I like it because we saw that arc of him turning into this big bad, but I don't like it because, I like these characters. I like the heroes. I like the pros. Like, I like the students. I like most of the pros. Like, I don't want anything bad to happen to them. I really don't. And, like, I know things are gonna be something bad's gonna happen to the heroes, especially in season 6, because, like, season 6 is the big war arc, where the heroes and the villains, they go head to head in a big old war, right? So I read a little bit of the manga, so I know most of what's gonna happen, but it's gonna be hard to see it animated. Like I said before, you feel this sense of dread whenever the villains show up, because they are genuinely threatening, especially now, currently in season 6, where they have this big old army of villains ready and willing to act out on for Shigaraki and his plan and his goal. So you just feel a lot of dread whenever the villains showed up. Again, I like it, but I don't like it at the same time. So most of the characters are solid. I like a lot of the characters. You like the characters who you're supposed to like, and you hate the characters who you're supposed to hate. Now, another arc that I'd like to mention, Deku. In season 1, he has a tendency to cry a lot throughout the seasons. He cries. As a matter of fact, he cried so much that whenever somebody talks about My Hero and bashes it, hates it, they're like, oh, you like that show? God, Deku cries so much. And there was a subtle arc, but throughout the show, we see him cry less and less, to the point where, like, he doesn't cry anymore, really. The only times he cries are when something, like, really, like, serious happens. Like, the last time he cried, I believe, was in season 5 with the whole Overhaul arc, where the heroes were trying to save this girl, Eri, which, by the way, Eri is precious. This girl deserves the world. She didn't deserve any of what she went through in season 5. This girl is precious. I love her so much. She's so adorable. But the heroes were trying to save this girl, Eri, from Overhaul, because Overhaul was using her to make these quirk erasing bullets. So they try and save her, and when they find out the gravity of the situation, Deku cries, but he doesn't cry like, he doesn't do a over the top cry like he did in previous seasons. He just sheds a few tears, and like, that was, I believe that was the last time we saw him cry in the show. So he goes through a mini arc of slowly becoming stronger and not crying, which was, it was a little subtle it was a subtle arc, but I appreciated it. Now, since we're on the topic of Deku, let me say this. Remember how I said, One for All, he breaks all of his limbs and he learns how to control it? So, this dude, Deku is portrayed to be smart, right? He's portrayed to be a very smart guy, a very strategic guy, right? But it took him until season 4, I believe. Yeah, it took him to like season 4 or 3, where he realizes, oh wait, I can use my legs. Because the whole thing with Deku is like, he broke his arms so many times to where if he breaks his arms again, he'll lose function of his arms if they break again. So he's like, damn, what can I do? What can I do about that? But then he realizes, oh wait a minute, I got legs. I'm gonna use my legs. And I'm just sat there like, it took you that long to realize that? Aren't you supposed to be like some big brain smart guy? Like, it took you that long to be like, I'm gonna use my legs. Like, I thought that was a little weird, but I'm gonna let that slide. All in all, I really, really, really love this anime. It's superheroes anime. What can I say? I love the characters. I love the animation. I love all the different quirks. Like, the quirks in this show are very unique. It's not just your stereotypical, like, your usual superpowers. there's a character whose quirk is having a tail. There's a character yeah, there's literally a character whose quirk is just he has a tail, and that's it. So there's that. There's a quirk where he can shoot tape out of his elbows. There's another quirk where she has these audio jacks to where like she can like shoot one of them to the wall and she can hear whatever's happening, whatever's going on. There's another quirk. There's a quirk where dude has multiple arms, right? He can shoot multiple body parts like eyes and like arms and all that. There's a quirk where a guy literally has engines in his legs. I can't make this stuff up. So the quirks in this are very unique. I like all the different types of quirks in this show. I like the arcs. I just really love this show. Like, when I first watched it, I was like, yeah, I really like this show. But as it continues, it slowly became my favorite show. Now, I know that the fandom of My Hero Academia can be trash, but so I know that's a bit of a risk to say that My Hero Academia is my favorite show because I may be associated with the more toxic fans of this show, but I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. There are people that hate on this show. They hate on like the writing, they hate on the characters and all that. They're the toxic fandoms. I don't care about any of that. I will pump my chest up and say it with pride. I love My Hero Academia. I love it. It's my favorite anime. I give it 2 thumbs up with a J3T stamp of approval. I love it. I love it so much. I'm gonna leave a link in the description where you can watch it. And yeah, I really love this anime. It's my favorite anime of all time. Like, it's number 1. The rest of my top 5/10, they fluctuate as I watch more anime, but My Hero Academia will always be number 1. It will always be number 1 in my rankings. I love this show so much, and yeah, 101 episodes. 101. It took me this long to talk about My Hero Academia. Wow. Or Boku no Hero Academia, if you're that guy. Wow. But anyway, that's about it. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. But if you really, and I mean really like me, consider subscribing and ring that bell so you always know whenever I upload, because it is free. It is free. Don't be a dum-dum. Subscribe today. Deuces.